Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our program brought to you by Madisonville Marine. Right now, you can get up to $1,500 back on select models of G3 boats. That's pretty doggone good. And with G3's Military Service Appreciation Instant Rebate, you can save even more if you are active or retired military, and that includes National Guard. That's up to $2,500 total on select G3 models at Madisonville Marine right now. madmarine.com to learn more. Madisonville Marine, Highway 411 North in Madisonville, of course. Madisonville Marine. You're not going to find a better boat dealer than Madisonville Marine. All right. Jeremy Pruitt and offensive coordinator Tyson Helton had a lot to say this week about Tennessee, about the offense. I want to break down some of their comments here and get some quick reaction from everybody. So let's run through these. The first one, Jeremy Pruitt was talking about Tennessee's roster, and he said, probably from a pure scholarship standpoint, we'll probably be operating off of 77 to 75 in the fall. We're definitely going to be under the 85-man limit. If you look at our entire team, there's probably needs at every position when it comes to depth. Josh Ward, your takeaway from that comment?
Well, I think that tells you there's still a lot of work to be done long term, and that's going to hold them back in the short term in terms of what they can do against SEC competition. Also, when you look at Tennessee and where it is, I think he started up front as well with those comments. The offensive line, they don't have near the numbers. They can barely go too deep, I think, in spring practice. So the lines of scrimmage, there's a lot of work to be done. In the SEC, short term, that's a problem.
Especially if you have injuries,
yes,
which we'll get to in a second. Let's talk about, and Ryan, I believe you wrote about this on GoVols 24/7. Let's talk about what his comments were regarding his recruiting views. I think it's important that we recruit the state of Tennessee and everywhere that's within a 5-hour/6-hour radius. But UT, the brand name, goes nationwide. There's going to be some years there's going to be 15 guys in the state that meet our criteria. There might be some years where there's 3. Butch Jones made a big talk about owning the state of Tennessee. It seems like Jeremy Pruitt is saying, look, we want to own the state of Tennessee, but I'm more determined to find the right guys that meet our needs wherever they are.
Yeah.
Am I taking it the right way? What's your takeaway from that comment?
No, I agree. That's what he meant, and I think he's showing that he and his staff are confident in their ability to go wherever they need to get the right players, and I think it shows he's got some different things he views as fits for his system. You know, there's going to be different types of defensive players that might not fit, different types of receivers, running backs, all that stuff. So I think he's going to go wherever he feels the talent is, and if that's in-state some years, great. You'd rather recruit in-state talent, but if it's not, they're willing to go wherever they need to and think they have enough ties elsewhere to get it done.
And to reference what you're talking about, he also commented on the fact that he wants to be able to work guys out, which he didn't get much of a chance to do this time around. But in terms of finding the fit, all coaches say, I don't care about their recruiting rankings, unless it's a 5-star heart. But coaches say they don't care about recruiting rankings. It sounds, with Jeremy Pruitt, like he really means it. Like, we're going to work these guys out, and I'm just throwing one out here. If they don't do well in the 3-cone drill, they're not going to be a cornerback for us. For example, if you're going to work these guys out. I thought that was a positive statement, the way that he is so focused on knowing what his system is.
Or actually, even DB being able to dunk a basketball.
Hey,
wasn't that part of what they
That's
did?
what he said. All right. And then last one, Chuck and Mike, I'll ask you about this one. Jeremy Pruitt, on all UT's injuries. Now, I've cut this down a little bit because he was really talking about 2 different things. First, right now we have a small football team, That's probably why we've had injuries. I think a lot of it is how you practice also. Back when I played, we were on the ground every dadgum play. So what's happening? You get people on the ground who get rolled up on ankles, knees, and all that. Then he gets back to it and says, you need big men. This is a big man's game. Mike and Chuck, your thoughts on his comments. 1, he's talking about the injury woes that Tennessee's had. 2, he's saying maybe they didn't practice the right way. And 3, he's saying we're too small, we need to get bigger. Thoughts on his comments? Agree, disagree? Surprised he said them because it kind of throws a little shade at Butch Jones. Surprised he said them because Butch Jones talked about doing the thud stuff and not going to the ground.
Well, I agree with a lot of it because at one time we were saying these were just kind of like freak injuries. You don't really have a pattern here.
Right.
But then it was like after 2 years of seeing this, what's going on? Darren Kirkland Jr., didn't he get rolled up on? Wasn't that how you lost him for the season? So I think with looking at the practice tape, he's got to see some things there. I agree with what he says.
And you certainly look at the Alabama teams, you talk about big, I mean, they were big. And looking at a guy comes from Alabama and now he's looking at Tennessee film. I can see why he said that.
And compare Tennessee's cornerbacks to like even Georgia's cornerbacks, where Jeremy Pruitt had been before. Georgia's cornerbacks looked like linebackers compared to Tennessee. I think there's a lot of truth in what he's saying.
Ryan, you commented before the show, you picked up something interesting that he was saying there about going to the ground.
Yeah, Butch Jones was kind of criticized at times for doing too much thud work and kind of practicing too soft almost. And I think at times he was probably a little bit too physical maybe earlier in his career at Tennessee. So I think they're both ends of the spectrum. He was maybe off at times. I'm not sure what part of the practice film Jeremy Pruitt watched. He said he watched some. I don't know if it was last year, 3 years ago. I mean, and earlier in his comments, he acknowledged luck as part of it too, and that there's no doubt it is.
I think that's a huge part of it. I also think, Josh, you look at SEC history, there are some teams that have done the thud work and just gone completely south. There are other teams that have been able to do that, and they win the SEC doing it. I don't know that there's one set plan that works.
Well, and there's a part A, B, and C, it would appear, to Jeremy Pruitt's plan as well, because he wants to get bigger, and that's right now, but how much work is going to be done in just the next few months before you get to spring practice and you get to that work when you also have numbers issues in practice. So that's going to take a lot of management for Jeremy Pruitt, who's a first-time head coach doing it as well.
All right, when we come back, Tennessee spending more money on their coaching staff. Of course, it's a little bit bigger. You've added someone. But this year, the NCAA has allowed a 10th assistant instead of just 9. But Tennessee spending more. We'll run through the salaries of these guys. One other interesting note about those that we'll bring up to you. And Tyson Helton, your new offensive coordinator, talked about what he expects to see from his offense. We'll discuss that as well. Come on back on the Sports Source.